It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission at the end of the day is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Jessica Green. She's in the building. She was talking about discovering your superpowers as it relates to entrepreneurship. What's going on, Jessica? How are you?
I am doing fantastic. What a great opening. And thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Shout out to Sherry for connecting us, man. Such a collaborator. Folks are looking and saying, discovering your superpowers as it relates to entrepreneurship. The first question I have is, what is the definition of superpowers, by the way? You talk about discovering a superpower. Just give us, because it can mean different things to different people. So when you talk about discovering your superpowers, why people challenge it with understand what their superpower is once you define it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a two-part question. She can handle it. What is superpowers? And then why do people struggle to figure out what their superpower is?
And it's my favorite thing to talk about, Shay. Like, I have been in the entrepreneurial space for about 18 years. I've owned and operated about 8 startup businesses, and I've been coaching in the entrepreneur space for about the last 10 years. And what I have found, and this is how I got to the superpowers part, what I have found is a lot of people get started in business because they want to make more money than they're making in their 9 to 5. They want to impact people. They want to have more freedom. They want that flexibility. And so they go about just creating a business to create a business. And what I found is that people end up just creating another job for themselves, getting up, doing the same 9 to 5, just maybe their own thing. And now it's not 9 to 5. It's turned into like 18 hours a day that they're working on this business, and they end up not loving what they're doing because it's just another job they've created themselves. So what I have coached in the female online entrepreneur space is kind of my specialty, though I've owned and operated multiple different types of businesses. I coach them to figure out what is the thing that if they jump out of bed in the morning excited to go work on that thing, then that is actually something that you could create into a career and a business that you love and you own. And so when it comes to finding your superpowers as it relates to entrepreneurship, I find that most people will get out of bed about something they're super passionate about. And usually it's something that they already have a superpower within them, maybe something they've overcome and they could teach others about, or something they were innately born with that they could share with other people that they are super passionate about and get super excited to work on. So I always say, like, getting out of bed in the morning can be hard for some people, especially entrepreneurs, when you're just getting up to go do the daily grind over and over. But if you're working on something that you innately have as a superpower and that you can exude passion about every single day, now you've created something that is like a career path and a journey that you're going to absolutely love. And you're going to attract more of those clients that you're looking for because you're exuding what you love. And that's why I always point to the superpowers first. So you're not just creating another job.
And as you were saying, talking about that, thanks for sharing, by the way, it makes sense. A good part of our audience are dualpreneurs, just so you know. They probably have a question that says, Shay, how does this relate and does this apply to me? Because they work a full-time job. They're also a full-time entrepreneur. And you said, and I love the way you said, there's no shame if you're a full-time employee and you have a full-time business. There's no shame. So it's not saying, oh, you're doing something bad. They might be wondering, how does it apply to them? And at the same time, they also, some of them take care of their husband or take care of their wife or take care of the kids or take care of significant others. Some folks are caregivers. Some folks, their kids have schedules. So they got a lot going on. So it's really another two-part question. Number one, how does the superpower relate to someone who's have a full-time job, even if they don't like what they're doing? And number two, what are some of your recommendations for folks that are trying to juggle and trying to still prioritize their life at the same time? I know it's a loaded question. I know it's a little unfair, but you have someone who's been doing this for a lot of years, so I'm sure she has some perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like you can give the advice and you can share your personal experience, but I ultimately believe that if you are going to create the business of your dreams, I call it the empire of your dreams. Now, remember, I work with a lot of female online entrepreneurs. So when I'm helping them build the empire of their dreams, there are some sacrifices that we have to make. But I would make that list of things that you're not willing to sacrifice first. And that might be your health, making time for workouts, making time for if you have family and you have kids and there's sporting events, there's these non-negotiables that you don't negotiate. Actually, just read a really great article or story on the founder of Netflix and him having a non-negotiable for 30 years. And people were asking him why he had such a great marriage. And it was a non-negotiable that every Tuesday at 5 p.m., he didn't care if the building was burning down, he was leaving to go have date night with his wife. And so I think you need to make those non-negotiables up front, because I have owned and operated a number of businesses that took me way beyond burnout and sitting in my love sack drooling, trying to figure out what to do next. And you start to ruin relationships. It can be friendships, it can be your marriage, it can be relationships with your kids. And I tell people all the time now, make that list of boundaries first, because if you work with somebody like me, I will push you past your boundaries sometimes because I want you to build that empire, but you have to have a very strong structure of boundaries around you of what the non-negotiables are so that you don't move past those. And, I don't know that that really has to do specifically with finding your superpowers or anything like that, but I do believe that everybody who becomes a successful entrepreneur along that journey does start to figure out what their superpowers are and honing in on those, because that's the part in your business that you want to work on. And when you're trying to do it all, sometimes you're going to have to bring people into your business to offload some stuff. If you know what your superpowers are, do those. Hire people for the rest.
I like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll figure out who she is in a moment. I know everyone hasn't read your bio, no matter how famous you are. Everyone's not at your website right now. There's someone right now that's cooking right now that's listening to us. Thank you for being there. Somebody's in the car listening to us in there, hopefully on the podcast. They're like, Shay, who is this person? I love what I'm hearing. We'll get to her backstory and the defining moment that led her to doing what she's doing now. But I do have a question. Is it possible that the superpowers or your passion could change over time? Once upon a time, my kids were young and now they're married, right? By the way. And is it possible that that could shift, although you still love what you're doing? And you talk about having multiple superpowers. So here's the question.
Mhm.
Is it possible that that passion for what you do and purpose could shift over time? Or is it kind of primarily the same? It just has different legs to it. Now,
I think
again, loaded question because you're talking to an audience of folks who are just listening, but I'm curious what your view of the world is.
I think there's both. I think there's,
Okay.
and when I take people through their superpower assessment with me, I generally, well, I do. I have each of them answer questions that are going to be, what are some of the things that you were born with? The things that people constantly come to you for advice on, the things that you can just do that come naturally to you, or things that you can, and I'm not talking about scrolling social media in this one, but things that make time disappear for you. I'm talking about things that you could do for like 7 hours and you look up and you're like, man, I can't believe 7 hours has already passed. I could work on this another 7 hours because it is something that comes so easy to you and is so fun for you. There's those type of superpowers. Those don't necessarily change over time. But what I will say is during my last, let's call it 10 years in business, where I've kind of gone into the coaching space, I have definitely picked up and honed in on some things that are superpowers now that have shifted in the last 10 years of experience, and more things that I found out that, wow, I would have never known that I was innately good at that had I not dug into that and started discovering what that was, and that I absolutely love doing it. I'm actually pretty good at it. But that all comes with, constant personal development, constant learning, being open-minded to new things and learning new things and shifting into some superpowers you may not have ever known that you had you not done the discovery process.
I love that. I love that you have a process. I love that you have a system and you even have an assessment. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about sprinkling dust in the air and saying, I believe this is what I want. There's actually a methodology and a framework that you can step into that she's talking about. So, the proverbial question now, people want to know, who are you? What's the backstory? But more importantly, what was that defining moment? Because you had several businesses and you helped start up a lot of business. But what was that defining moment where you said, you know what? My jam now is helping entrepreneurs understand their true superpower as it relates to entrepreneurship.
I love this question because I had a very specific defining moment. And I can get to in just a couple minutes, like that one
Sure.
moment where I was like, wow, big mistake. I landed in a spot I didn't want to be in. But about 2 years ago, actually, I'd already owned and operated in a number of businesses. I've had some successes and I've had some failures. And any entrepreneur that's successful will probably tell you that they learned more in their failures than they did their successes. And that's what got them to success. So if you haven't failed enough times yet, you will, and it will be worth it, because on the flip side, you'll come out ahead. Now, about 2 years ago, maybe actually almost 3 years ago now, I found this book called The 12-Hour Walk. It's by Colin O'Brady. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting title. I got to go read that. Or maybe I heard him. I think I heard him on a podcast, and I listened to his story. I was like, I got to go get that book. That's what happened. I got to go get this book. So I get the book, and he talks about walking out of his house one day during the pandemic and needing to clear his head. And he left and he went on a 12-hour walk. No phone, no distractions, no social media, no podcast, no audibles in his ears, and what he was able to accomplish in his brain in 12 hours. And so I was like at a point in my life where I had made some errors, and I had my mistakes, and I had my failures. And I'm like, I'm going to do this 12-hour walk. I'm just going to go do this 12-hour walk. I'm going to see what it's like. So I did. I didn't walk right out my front door. I figured I'm a female by myself. Let me go to a park and somewhere I know that I'm safe. Put my phone on airplane mode, put a little notebook in my pocket with a pen. And I did not turn that phone on or go to social media or Audible or anything for 12 hours. I was very sore at the end of the day, but boy, oh boy, did my brain get a chance to actually be creative again. And that's when my newest business and my adventure that I've been on now for the last 2 years was born, was on that walk. And I tell people it's part of my coaching now. I'm like, go get this book. I want you to shut down for 12 hours. I want you to go for a walk. I want your brain to actually open up and decide what you want to do with it without any interference or distraction. It is amazing what your brain will do with 12 hours of no distraction. And that was my
Wow,
defining.
I've heard a lot of stories and defining moments. Never that way. 12 hours. I mean, I'm a marathon runner. I run 5. Can't imagine just getting up one day and say, I'll just go walk for 12 hours and stay out. And I could feel the pain in the legs afterwards.
It was painful. It was so worth it. It was life shifting, life altering 12 hours for me.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so authentic, by the way. So for those folks, you may have missed it if we do a recap and they said, okay, if she could give me 1, 2, or 3 steps, and I know you have a whole assessment and she'll be talking about how you can best connect with her, and said, Shay, I really want to identify my superpower. I want to kind of understand what it is. Or is there step 1, step 2, step 3 that she can just give me that I can start thinking about it? What would you say to that person that's leaning forward now and leaning in and saying, yeah, might not be on a 12-hour walk, but I can get started right now in the present moment?
Absolutely. I just highly recommend the 12-hour walk, but that's step 4 or 5. Okay. So let's go. I tell people first, get out a notebook, go sit in a quiet corner and start answering some questions about yourself. Number 1, what comes naturally to you? What are some of the things that you're like, man, I could go, and I don't care what it is. It could be, I like to go play basketball for 12 hours. Let's not use scrolling social media for 12 hours. I don't really think that's going to get you anywhere, though I love my social media time. But things that come naturally to you, they always have. Maybe you were just born with a skill set. You're a singer, you're a piano player, you're a dancer, you're things that just come naturally to you. You're an easy communicator. You can sell ice to an Eskimo. Like, write all of the things down that come naturally to you. The other thing is, write a list, an infinite list. I tell people, and when I say infinite, I mean infinite. Just keep it going. Is all the things that you do well. I'm a really good cook. And maybe that doesn't come naturally to you, but you really enjoy it, and you're good at it. Like, you could whip up a dish with barely even using measuring cups, right? Like, things that that come naturally to you, that you're really good at. Just a list of infinite things that you do well. And then the one I like the most is, what do people come to you for advice on all the time? Not come to bend your ear and seek drama storytelling. I'm talking, they come to you for advice on, what should I do with my kids when they go through this? What should I do with my extra money that I have laying on the side? What should I do with my computer? It's broken. What do people come to you for advice on all the time? Those are probably things that you could create a business out of and monetize on if you haven't already found your thing. And so I would start there. I have a much longer assessment than that, just to help you really dig and discover. But that's where I would start.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? Because that's a really good start. It's really intensive. For some of you, you're like, exactly what you need and you're thirsting for more. And don't worry, she's going to share with you how to contact her. But what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? Because you seem to be happy at what you're doing with the
I love
venture that you're on now.
I love what I'm doing. I have been, like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. And in the last economic downturn, I found myself and fell into network marketing. And though no longer building in the field of network marketing, I learned a lot about people that my business degree didn't tell me. And I loved that part of it because I got to see a bunch of humans. I built a very large team very fast and got to see a lot of humans, mainly females in that business, want to have their own thing, want to raise their family and have their own money and their own time freedom, but didn't have the skill sets that I had, like the business degree and the marketing degree that I had under my belt and owning and operating other businesses. So it was much easier for me to go to the top than it was for them. But along that journey, I've collected a lot of people that are females that want to build a business online that just they don't necessarily have the skill set, and I get to pour that into them and help them along the way and view some tools for them and some systems for them to be able to build a business that they can be proud of without having to have a business or marketing degree. So the joy I get out of it is there's these little glimmers or pieces of people's businesses that I'm like, oh, if I wasn't there, I don't know if they would have gotten it there. And I'm so glad I got to pour into that and got to help them realize their dreams, because it's not just about me. And they say this in network marketing all the time, though that's not what I'm doing, is if you help enough other people get what they want, you will get what you want. And what I want is really to help a whole lot of people be able to shine in the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah. I don't know if you can be more transparent to that. I like that. Thanks for sharing. Network marketing, I've never been in it, but it's certainly a number of folks I've talked to has taught them so much and given them so many different skills. And the people skill side of it is just I don't know. It's something that you couldn't purchase anywhere else. So
True.
thanks for sharing. We have a segment here called "Today Is My January 1st." Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. In fact, you can go ahead and say those words. Today is my January 1st. I know that feels good. Doesn't that feel good? And for all the new folks who tune in for the very first time, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show family. We're glad to have you here. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny that past is, the past back there no longer equals the future. And so my question for Sherry on the other side is really two parts. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number two, what was another moment where there was a setback in your life, and how did you bounce back from it?
Ooh, I have a really good bounce back story. Well, setback story. I'm in the midst of the bounce back, if that's okay.
Yay!
So my January 1st, right? Like I love the first of the year, just like everybody else. It's that fresh start. It's that start something new. And what I would say about that subject is we all can start over at any point in time. And just because you went to college and got a degree in this, or you never went to college at all, or maybe you never even graduated high school, we all get the chance to have a January 1st whenever we want to. No one has to wait till January 1st. No one has to be stuck where they're at. And that's what I love about helping and coaching in the space of entrepreneurship, is that you get to talk to people all day, every day that just want a fresh start. And so it's a January 1st around my world almost every day, because I am helping people create new businesses, start businesses, or scale businesses all day, every day. So January 1st to me is like every other day of the year, because I get to see it so much. I get to set goals with people every day on their new journey to success in their business. And I mean, my birthday's January 4th, so I really like January 1st because
Yeah, it's
rainbows
cool.
around in those few days. Oh, and my setback. Oh, yes, yes, my favorite part. So, along my journey of entrepreneurship, like I said, I've owned and operated a number of businesses, some successful, some not successful. Well, a number of years ago, I was coaxed into really trying to put together someone else's dream and become their partner in this business. And to keep the story short, because it is a very long one, 5 years of building out a tech company, which I really had no experience in doing, but we were building it out for a field that I knew a lot about. And after 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, me taking on the CEO role, me going out and learning how to pitch venture capitalists and securing some venture capital to really launch and scale the business, uh, we had exhausted all efforts, all money, and we finally were closing this venture capitalist deal. And he ended up getting sick in the midst of the pandemic and went into the hospital on a ventilator, and we lost our deal. And at that moment in time, we needed that deal to close so that we could launch our company. We'd spent 5 years building the tech, having bad developer after bad developer, finally get a good development team. We were building an in-house offshore tech team to scale the business. We were ready to rock and roll, and it was God closing the door. It was clear and loud. God closed that door for a reason. And I went and sat in my love sack in my living room, my giant bean bag, and I think I drooled on myself for like a solid 30 days and thought, it's over. This is over. This entrepreneurial journey for me is over. I cannot do this. I never want to do this again. I never want to raise funds again for another business. I need to find something that is just secure and safe, and let me tuck myself back in this corner. And I watched at that time, my son was 13. I watched him walk past the living room. He watched his entrepreneurship mother building business every day of his life up to this point, sit in a beanbag and like be lost. And I just finally picked myself back up one day and said, it's not over. It is not over. God closed that door for a reason. You are meant for bigger and better and badder things. Now go help other people go show other people and help other people build businesses because you know how to do it. Just because this one was a loss, you spent 5 years doing it. It's time to move on. And you learned a ton of skills in the process. And that's when, not too long after, I went on my 12-hour walk.
Wow, incredible! And one of the things I'm enjoying about this is how vulnerable you are and saying that everything wasn't a success, but the good news is you can get it right. And now you're in your purpose, you're in your passion, you're in the superpower. I like that,
Yeah.
by the way. I like that term, that superpower. One of the questions I get to ask when we have time, we have a few minutes right now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I always frame it for the audience. They wouldn't ask you to come off the mountain with the 10 commandments or anything here. But you've had so many mentors along this journey. You've watched so many videos. You've read so many books. I mean, it's probably countless right now. But if you had to reach out and say, wow, this is just one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given that you want to pass to the audience, what would it be and why?
It's so crazy. And maybe I just believe in gut feelings a lot. The piece of advice I actually am being like pushed to give right now is not something I actually want to say out loud to the audience, but it was in that, and maybe it's just because I just told that story, but I've been given a lot of great advice along the way. So don't get me wrong. There's a lot of positive, meaningful advice I've been given, but this one, if anybody's stuck and you talk about your January 1st, you can always start over. There's always a fresh start to be had. You are going to fail a few times in business and fall on your face and have egg on your face before you get to that success. And when I was going through the journey of that company I was just referring to and trying to get it off the ground, and we were getting to the point of funding, a gentleman that I brought in to be our interim CTO, our chief technology officer, we got on a private Zoom one day and he said, Jess, I want you. At this time, the company was doing great. We were on a great trajectory. The funding was coming in. We were going to launch. And he said, I want to have this conversation with you because it's a piece of advice someone gave me in the midst of a startup a long time ago, and it really saved my life. He's like, you may get to a point in this business or a future business that you have, you're a go-getter, you're a type A, you're going to go until you literally kill yourself trying to make something launch. If you ever get to the point where you feel like, tuck a note inside your desk that says, if I don't get to this point by this point, it's okay to stop and start over or give up. And that's not necessarily the advice I want to give right now, but it's when you asked me that question, that was the one piece of advice that probably saved me from a lot of heartache, a lot of stress, and not actually staying in that beanbag. I had already given myself permission at that point. It was okay to have a failure and get back up and start again and do something new. That's really where I came up with finding your superpowers, because I had realized after building businesses for other people for so long, I really needed to get to what I was passionate about and work on what I wanted to and what Jess Green could help people with and what people were coming to me for advice from all the time. And that's really where the superpowers was born from. Is I went through that. I know what that struggle was like. And I'm so glad that that person gave me permission to stop when I needed to stop. And I'm not a quitter, but I needed that advice to make it okay.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing. What do you do for fun? We're not out saving the world and making a difference and taking 12-hour walks and creating superpowers and within entrepreneurs. What do you do for fun these days?
It's a great question, and I laugh at this question all the time because I'm that crazy person who loves entrepreneurship so much that I could literally work on businesses in my business 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's my hobby. And I'm crazy, but I do love to travel. I love, love, love to travel. I love to spend time with my friends and family. I have what I call my last name is Green, so we have an oasis in our backyard. We call it the Green Oasis. And if I have some downtime, that's where I'm spending it, is with my family and my friends around our green oasis and reading books, personal development, and traveling. If I could just have those things in my life, I'm a happy girl.
Life's good. That's cool. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation? How can they maybe do the assessment? I mean, what's the next step for folks who are watching and listening now?
Yeah, I wrote a book called Superpower to Super Profit. And you can find me very easily, all my social media channels, the assessment right at my website, which is just.green. I got lucky and the .com thing wasn't, jessicagreen.com wasn't available. So I actually got just.green. So www.just.green will get you to all the places that you might want to find stuff about me. And our client really, we help all kinds of entrepreneurs. So it's not just female online entrepreneurs, but really that's who I've attracted mainly and who I really enjoy working with. Though we do have men as clients, and we have all types of different businesses as clients, from brick and mortar to online retail to network marketers to social marketers to influencers. We help them all. And we really focus in on that person who's in the online space wanting to scale their business.
Well, let me say two things. Number one, thanks for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. We know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you're giving us the most precious resource you have right now, which is obviously your time. So thanks for being on the show. Can't wait to reconnect with you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Good. And thank you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, there is no show. I just want you to know that. So we appreciate every time you show up. Every time you hit the like button, that's kind of cool. But more importantly, hit the share button. We really like that. Like, share this with another community so their life can be better. They can get the superpowers that they need. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that as you're watching right now, you're super incredible, amazing, awesome. I know that's a lot of words, but you're that person that's watching right now. And no matter what's going on in your life, I believe today is your January 1st. Because of just that one reason alone, your best is still yet to come. They ain't seen it yet. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name hasn't changed. It's still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day. We're out here, everyone. Bye. So like Jessica. Peace, everybody.